Hi, welcome to my review and book discussion about Rouge by Mona Awad. There will be a spoiler-free section and then a spoiler section. Don't worry, I'll warn you before we get into the spoilers. And just so you know, the visuals are just going to be me knitting something random. You know how some people might show them playing a game or drawing when they talk about something else? I'm doing the same thing, just knitting. And excuse my hands, they don't look very perfect right now because of my pet. That's kind of on theme with the book, though, I guess. Your imperfections tell a story. Anyway, I'll put the reference to the pattern in the description. I wish I was knitting something related to the book, but I don't have time for that. Let me do a few disclaimers before I get into the full book discussion. Content warning, death and dying. I think this is the only one. If there are any other ones I should include, let me know and I'll try to keep them updated in the description. There will be a spoiler-free section first and then a spoiler section. And as always, there will be opinions, so be nice in the comments. Okay, so let's get into my spoiler-free section first. So first I'll start out with my summary of the Goodreads summary. So this novel is about a woman named Belle who is obsessed with skincare. Her mother unexpectedly dies, and Belle is forced to travel back home to take care of her mother's estate. And of course, along the way, she needs to come to terms with her mother's death. Belle is introduced to the spa that her mother used to go to, and this spa ends up being more like a cult. So I picked up this book solely because of Mona Awad. I've only read Bunny, but that was enough to make me want to read Mona's next book. And I was intrigued by the cover with the bold colors and the retro font. So I liked this book overall. The beginning was a little slow for my taste, but it wasn't too bad. It just didn't fully grip me until about halfway when Belle starts interacting more with the spa. And then the ending felt a tad rushed for me as well. I also feel like I didn't get as many answers as I wanted. It's not bad enough that I'm frustrated, because let me tell you, I hate when we don't get enough answers and I still know nothing by the end, but that's not really the case here. I just wanted to know a little bit more than what was given to us. Everything in this book basically revolves around Belle and her relationship with her mother, so we learn a lot about why their relationship evolved the way it did, and how Belle's mother informed Belle's relationship with herself and her self-image. What stood out the most to me was the themes. There were a lot of really thoughtful themes that really resonated with me, and I thought they were really well crafted and integrated with each other and the story. One that's pretty obvious, even based on the book summary, is the obsession with skincare. And with that, you can extrapolate that there will be overlap with beauty standards and aging and superficiality. I think this is a really important topic right now for young women and women in general. The skincare obsession trend has gone way out of control. The book also touches on the complexities of mother-daughter relationships and how those complicated relationships complicate how you grieve. The whole book has what I would call a fairy tale filter over it. It doesn't feel like a particular adaptation to me. It feels like an amalgamation of a bunch of different fairy tales. I liked this vibe because it allowed the themes to stand out like they do in fairy tales, and the plot or characters could be a little ridiculous, or I didn't question the logic behind things as much because it felt like a fairy tale. I think, like me, a lot of people will be familiar with Mona Awad through Bunny. I think there are a lot of similarities to Bunny. There's the cult aspect, of course, and I won't get into more here, but I do think if you like Bunny, you'd probably like this book. I think that's all I have to say without getting into spoilers. If you haven't read this book, maybe that gave you an idea of whether or not you'd be interested in reading it. If you have read the book, then continue on so we can talk about spoilers together. Okay, so now I'll touch on some of the things I mentioned earlier, but just go more in depth. I'll talk about some new things. I'll also include some quotes I liked and want to discuss, or just talk about random things I like and didn't like. The novel opens up with a prologue about Belle's mother reading her a bedtime story, and if you're still here, you know that this book is told from Belle's perspective, so her mother is usually called Mother, so that's what I'm going to be calling her as well. But this bedtime story is Belle's favorite. She's heard it over and over again. It's about a beautiful maiden who everyone admires and envies. This chapter is so perfect at setting up so many of the themes and ideas in this book. It perfectly describes our world where a woman's beauty is valued over everything else. She talks about her name, Belle, and how it's French for beautiful. From birth, she has this expectation set upon her of what she needs to be and what's important for her to be and where her value lies. We also start to see this deep insecurity within Belle that she doesn't live up to these beauty standards. And one really sad reason why she has this insecurity is because she compares herself to her beautiful mother. Another thing that's introduced in the prologue is Belle's childhood innocence. Because of the bedtime story, Belle becomes curious about what envy means, and Mother has to explain what it is. Belle then understands what envy is because that's what she feels towards her mother. Like, ouch. So it just perfectly sets up their complicated relationship, and also Mother's role in teaching Belle, or the role she has in corrupting Belle's childhood innocence, however you want to see it. Early on, we're introduced to Belle's skincare addiction and the skincare tutorials that she likes to watch. I liked the way her skincare hobby or routine was from the beginning introduced as cult-like. They often get neglected, don't they? She looks right at me with her golden eyes. I find myself nodding as I always do. Yes, Marva, I whisper along. Yes, they do get neglected. Through the inclusion of these skincare gurus and these skincare videos, the book shines a light on the language and attitude that's used in the skincare world. A lot of the language they use comes off as very condescending and accusatory. Having any kind of skin imperfection is shamed as you not taking care of yourself, which is obviously just not realistic, right? We see Belle weaponize this language and judgment toward others. We know how much this system has harmed her, but yet she's constantly upholding this system and judging other people's skin. There's this one passage I really like that gets at this point. She's helping this woman at the dress shop and she's acting as her mirror. She thinks the dress is really ugly on her, but is struggling with whether or not to tell her. I can feel her holding her breath. For a moment, I savor the power. The true words right on my tongue. Unflattering. Unfortunate. I could speak them and crush her. She literally delights in this power she holds over other women. She knows how harmful this language has been to her own self-esteem, and she knows how desperate she is herself for validation from others. And there's this nagging urge there to weaponize it against other people. I mentioned earlier how the novel shows how Mother formed Belle into the person she grows up to be. How Mother raises Belle will inevitably impact the type of person Belle becomes. And here we can see specific moments where the knowledge that Mother shares leads Belle into becoming more and more of an adult, and corrupting her childhood innocence into a more jaded adult mindset. There's a passage I love that shows this idea so well. It's a little long, so bear with me. Because the sun is our mortal enemy, sweetie, Mother always says. Why? Because it makes us age and it makes us tan. And we don't want that. We certainly don't want to age. As for tanning, it's wonderful when we have it naturally, like you, of course, she always says to me, cupping my face in her hands. You're one of the lucky ones, sunshine. But when we're ghosts like your poor mother, we need to be exceedingly careful. I always thought the sun was nice. In school, whenever I drew the sun in pictures, I made a smiling face inside the yellow circle in the sky. Made it smile over the flowers below, also smiling, and the spiky green grass. But ever since I learned the truth from Mother, I put a frown in the sun. I give him angry eyes, mean eyebrows like hairy upside-down V's. He shoots death rays down onto the beautiful maiden's hat who is sitting below on the grass. Oof, I just love this passage so much. I feel like it captures that loss of innocence so well. It's so easy for a parent to influence a child and completely rearrange their outlook on life. One word you say has the potential to completely change them. And this one paragraph covers a few other things as well. Throughout the book, Belle has a really hard time unpacking the true intentions of her mother. When Mother says that Belle's beautiful, is she lying? Is she saying it out of pity? So Belle's white mother talking about the sun and tanning is obviously a loaded conversation for Belle, who is mixed. And Mother teaches Belle that she hates the sun, and that Belle should hate it too. Meanwhile, Mother's pet name for Belle is Sunshine, so that's just gotta be so confusing. Around the middle of the novel, Belle gets her first treatment from Rouge. The treatments are basically stealing these traumatic memories, which then causes memory loss. One of my favorite things about this book was watching Belle's mental state deteriorate further and further, and it's done in stages, so after the first treatment she can't remember people's names, but things still feel familiar, and she mostly just seems a little out of it. During these episodes, what's interesting is that some of the other characters interpret Belle's behavior as a grief response, but as the treatments continue, Belle completely loses touch with reality, thinking mannequins are her sisters, or by the end she can't even register that the cult is about to eat her soul. So I just thought this was a really unique perspective to read from for half of a book. If you've read Bunny, you know that this is a big similarity between the two books. I like that Mona leaned into it a bit more in Rouge. When Belle is in these trances, she forgets names and people, but she also forgets her words. She forgets which word is the right word to use, and I love this use of language. Sometimes it's funny, like this quote where she's helping a customer at the dress shop. "My mission, my absolute pleasure to try. After all, how many doubtful shoppers just like her have I asphyxiated over the years? Assisted." I definitely chuckled at that one. And then on a deeper level, there's these internalized alternate words. Like after the spa treatments, they like to say that there's a brightening to the skin, and Belle starts accidentally calling it a whitening. So it's like telling us her true thoughts that she won't admit out loud. Belle feels this pull to go back to the spa for her final treatment, and Hud Hudson, the private investigator, insists on going with her to make sure she doesn't get into any trouble. And then he ends up getting hypnotized by one of the cultists, and he's taken down into the depths as well. I was about to be mad that Belle was about to play this damsel in distress while the man saved her, but then he ended up going down too. I just thought that was so funny. And it was cute in the end that she was worried about him and saved him in the end. After the final treatment, they have the cult ceremony. I really liked that scene for so many reasons. I liked finally getting some answers about what the jellyfishes were and what the cult wanted with them. I liked the reveal that Tom Cruise/Seth was working for the cult all this time. I really liked the scene where the cult eats Lake's jellyfish. I thought it was actually a pretty scary and heartbreaking scene. I really liked this scene, but I did want more. It felt a little rushed, and I did feel a little unsatisfied because I wanted more information about Rouge. In the final scenes, I also really loved how Mother's jellyfish was protecting Belle's jellyfish in the tank, and I loved these final moments that Belle had with her mother. I just thought they were so healing and emotional. We saw Mother acknowledging the ways that she unintentionally had a negative impact on Belle. We touch on the inevitability that daughters often turn into their mothers, and we get to see them realize that their relationship wasn't perfect, but at the end of the day, they still love each other. Let me read you my favorite part that encapsulates these ideas. "You're handing me an apple you picked yourself. For you, Mother, you say. You say it matches my Chanel lipstick, my best red. And your face is so full of sunshine, no shadows yet. You reach out to hand it to me, and I'm afraid of how beautiful you are, how much I love you, how I won't be able to protect you from this place, from me, my places that I go. One is locked away in the closet, cracked and turned to the wall, but one day you'll find it. You'll stand in front of its shining face, not knowing why I turned it away, that I'm only protecting you from myself, the things I can't change, the things I wish I could. I'll try to stop it in my clumsy ways that are out of love, that won't work, but my places will soon be your places, and everything will shatter like glass, terribly." There's this whole subplot with Tom Cruise. Who knew Tom Cruise would be such a significant character in this book? I didn't love these parts of the book, though. It was a little weird, like, what is the point of all this? It is revealed later, but it was a little too confusing and felt off as I was reading it. And this is part of what I need more answers about. Was he just in a bunch of random little girls' mirrors in order to plant a bad memory in hopes that one day they would find their way to this one random spa in California to feed that memory to the spa members? Like, that seems like a real stretch. One of the end messages that I got from all this was how your scars and your skin, your age and wrinkles are physical manifestations or symbols of your memories, personality, experiences. This obsession with erasing scars and wrinkles, which signify things that we've been through, is not only futile because it's just impossible to look young and perfect forever, but this obsession also really dishonors your soul and your memories. We see this constantly throughout the novel. In the beauty sphere, it's all about beauty over everything. For example, Belle gets worried that she can't remember certain things after her treatment, and the spa cult responds that it doesn't really matter as long as the treatment makes her look better. Interesting. Well, daughter, I think you'll find that there are some faces and places that simply aren't worth recalling. Perhaps you're discovering that on your beauty journey. Or another line. But I'd happily be a little scrambled for this brightness. In the end, after all of the cult drama, Sylvia, Mother's friend and business partner, is nursing Belle back to health. I really like this exchange between Sylvia and Belle. It's a little long, so I am going to cut some parts out. I feel her looking at me instead of the screen, smiling. What? Just, you're looking better these days. How? I ask Sylvia. Sylvia doesn't look at me like she's afraid for me. She's smiling, like there is someone there she recognizes in my eyes. A friend. Like you, she says. This gets at the heart of the message so effectively with only 2 words. Like you. Instead of trying to hide all our imperfections, we should be embracing them because they make us who we are. I have a few other minor things I wanted to touch on. What do you guys think of the book cover? It did draw me in because I love anything with a vintage aesthetic, so it definitely did catch my eye, and I love the bold colors and the retro font. I don't super love the rose and jellyfish though. It's obvious that it's a rose, but the top part really confused me for the longest time. Like, is that a rose steaming or something? Maybe I'm just dumb. But then once I realized it was a jellyfish, and then I started seeing all the connections between roses and jellyfish, I liked it more, at least symbolically that they were both there on the cover. I think I would like it better though if it was just a jellyfish. It would look a little cleaner and also is more unique in my opinion than a rose. I also wanted to mention that in the About the Author section it says that Rouge is already optioned for film. Already. That's kind of crazy. The whole time I was thinking how cool it would be to see a movie version, but I thought it would be too weird to make into a movie. I guess it's not though, so I am happy about that. Apparently Bunny is also optioned for film, so I'm excited for that too. That's it for my review and book discussion for Rouge by Mona Awad. I think my fun little name is going to be calling these book discos, like book discussion, but it's a book disco, you know, like I feel like it's a fun little abbreviation for it. But I would love to hear your thoughts on the book. Is there anything big I missed that I should have talked about? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. And before I go, I wanted to do a little check-in about some other things. I think this is the first video I've done that's dedicated to one book. I've done some other book-related videos, but recently I've been focusing more on film and TV discussion and analysis. Because of the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, I've been putting some of those videos on hold. I've had the next Timothée Chalamet video ready to go for a while now, so once the strikes are done, that video will go up. But for now, this is just giving me a chance to focus on books, which have been a little bit neglected on this channel. But that's it. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!